I mean, and then the references, like I said, to wardrobe, and then the personality. Miles, and I'm not, you said it, but you're not the only one, Stanley. Every time I hear these kind of phrases like, Miles pimped his women, like he pimped his music like he pimped his women, he was a heroin addict. Now, if we're going to start lowering the playing field to that, then you know what? I don't want none of y'all to read Edgar Allan Poe, because he was a heroin addict. Throw away psychoanalysis, because you know what? Sigmund Freud was a cokehead. You understand? Let me tell you something. What? Don't look at no more Van Gogh, because he cut off his ear for another man. Don't read T.S. Eliot, because he was an anti-Semite. What are we talking about here? Let's keep it to the word. The pimping and the heroin, brother, where does that end? I'm not here to discuss that. We tried one thing. We wanted to expand the dimensions of the music. And all we're saying is, most of the people who were criticizing the music were like, it's like inviting Kool-Aid drinkers to a wine tasting contest. You didn't even have the power.
Well,
yeah.
But there's a very famous essay about Richard Wagner called The Monster, in which the majority of the essay is about the horrible person that Wagner was. Then the guy at the end, he doesn't identify him. So, I mean, just to let you know that your argument is not new, even vaguely. He says at the end, regardless of what kind of a person he was, there were plenty of people who did every one of these things that he did. He said, but he is the only one who wrote the ring cycle, blah, 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 blah. This is a basic understanding of people in arts. That's one of the reasons why fascist, communist, Marxist, totalitarian movements have always had problems with artists, because artists tend to not be Boy Scouts. Miles Davis's personality is only an issue because in his own material, he makes his personality an issue.
First of all, I'm a result of it. I took another path. I decided to explore, I wanted to explore some other kinds of work. I talked endlessly, with endless hours, with people like George Clinton, P-Funk, Parliament. The generational influence, brother, took it out of the clubs. It was in how it influenced contemporary popular music. Not necessarily the continuum of how much you can play this in the Village Vanguard. That music found a place to influence and morphed into other things. That's all I'm saying, brother. And to use that, well, Chick's not playing that, it was never involved for that. We were all committed to a direction, and I'm saying the result of that direction became other things. It was more like a trunk that had other branches. The whole point is, no, they're not playing like that anymore. So what does that got to do with what we were trying to do? It morphed into other things in a generation that had nothing to do with them. That's the, I mean, wait. Does anybody kind of get this? We all did something else. You want to keep taking it back, well, Charlie Parker didn't play it. I mean, it's over. That period, he did what he was supposed to do. It influenced those who were supposed to influence. Let me end this because we don't have to keep going up this trail. It was a music created for a given time, a given period. And what we did, I felt, was a great thing in terms of trying to stretch the boundaries.
We're going to take questions. Now, I want to emphasize that word, questions.
I would like to address my question to Mr. Crouch. You mentioned that there was no evidence to indicate that the music had spread out to other areas, and you haven't really heard it. And as Mr. Mtume said, that, you know, musicians have gone another way. Well, if you keep looking to jazz to see the expansion and forget about all the other kinds of music that are out there, I would suggest that you listen to Eric Clapton, listen to some of the things that Rolling Stones play, and you will hear Miles in those chords that are being played by traditionally rock groups. So I think the influence of Miles Davis is just as good as Kind of Blue was, but we're now in another place. This is the year 2005. I'm not looking for Miles to come back and do Kind of Blue again, but hopefully I'm looking for somebody to take me to the next level.
And your question?
Okay.
I can take it, brother. I can take it.
But really, questions, you got to have a question.
Okay, the question is, do you agree with what I have just said?
That's right. But the gentleman's point I stick to. Look, why is this strange feeling I get? The acceptance of one reality precludes you being able to agree with the other. Of course, didn't I say I put on Kind of Blue? I put on all these things. But you know what? I'm also 58 years old. And as I look in this audience, I don't see a lot of young people who don't want to hear Kind of Blue. They'd rather hear, and I've been in those situations. They came in on the corner. There's another generation, which is what this man is talking about. I just happen to be one of those unfortunate but fortunate people that was in both worlds. I totally agree. But there's another generation of young people that have a different opinion on what they did. Because one guy called up a jazz station and said, take that BS off. I got my grandkids here. Take that BS off. That don't make all this other music irrelevant. I agree with you. Greatness is greatness. All I'm saying is what we did was not meant to influence you and me and these people. It was designed to influence the next generation, to open up new possibilities. There it is. Next question.
Stanley, how can you say that the 1970 to 1975 period of Miles' music doesn't influence other people when I hear a lot of bands coming out of Europe that are using polyrhythms, that are incorporating unusual combinations of instruments? And I don't mean just stuff that was coming out in 1972, I mean stuff that is coming out now.
Oh, I'm neither aware nor very impressed by what's coming out of Europe, I have to say.
You're neither aware?
I'm not.
How can you be impressed what you're not aware of?
Actually, I've heard a number of those European bands, like I said, but I'm really, but that's not but the fundamental issue is this. The fundamental issue is the one I keep coming back to. That is that music out of the 70s sounds dated.
I feel that the creative process takes 3 stages. And I don't care if you're playing music, if you're writing books, if you're a painter, a sculptor, whatever it is you want to do artistically. I always believe that intellect is the highest form of art, and art is the highest form of intellect. But you go through 3 basic stages. I don't care who you are. The first stage you go through is imitation. Somebody turned you on. If you're a writer, you read this book, like, I want to write like this. You heard this person play, man, I want to play like that. You saw this painting, I want to paint like that. That's imitation. The second phase that you matriculate to is emulation. Now, in this phase of emulation, you're still kind of under that other person's influence, but you start to find your own little influences coming in. You know what I mean? You start to find a little bit of your own voice or your own fingerprint. And if you're lucky enough, the final phase that you move to is innovation. That's when you've combined this and you finally have all these things that went through your funnel and you find who you are. But those are the phases. I don't care what art you're dealing with. Imitation, emulation, and innovation. So Stanley split.
Okay, no, he's coming right back.
No, I know, but I mean to handle the second half. That brother here has been here all day. That brother right there.
I wanted to direct my question to the brother, Mr. Crouch. I've been listening to both of you talking, and I've tried to draw some conclusion on what you're saying. And my first question is, Mr. Crouch, did you conduct some kind of survey to determine the authenticity of Miles' influence, or are you playing the devil's advocate trying to stimulate conversation? What is your exact description of Miles as a musician and his influence?
Oh, he was a great musician.
Oh.
I mean, that's the only reason we're here. Because if he wasn't great, there wouldn't be a conversation.
Oh, then if that is the case, then why do you allude to him as being a prostitute and other derogatory words that you said you could use? Please describe him.
Oh, I think he was a sellout.
Why?
Oh, because of
There's
what I
somebody
said.
ever said that.
Because I think that the material that he used, I think the audience he saw, I think that the costumes that he wore, I think that all of that was commercial.
Costumes?
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, you had best take shirt and tie off, because that's a costume you have on was by someone else. What we got?
Well, this is what we have to deal with when we deal with the public.
This is a question for Mr. Mtume. I'd like to know more about the mechanics of what Miles intended for the bands that he put together? For example, that which you were a part of.
Yes, sir.
Was there, he was creating, a sort of a new, at least it was new for the listeners, it was new for the audience. Was that how much of that was intended and how much of that was, shall we say, a happy accident?
Play the tape.
You know, sometimes there's no separation between the two. I mean, you'd be surprised on what you stumble on. You can already see it's 1973. 1973. And I ain't heard nothing like it now, okay? And I'm sure Stanley said because it was that sad, but anyway, I'm only teasing. Anyway, but to see Miles at a Wawa, we were exploring this, and what I'm going to show you in a minute, and if I didn't point this out, you wouldn't even have dug it. That's how we made very complicated polyrhythmic progressions. Because at that time, Miles was listening to a lot of African rhythms, and I brought that to the table. We would do it, sometimes when we were in 4/4, I might play 7 against it. My main influence was the Elvin Jones, how to play through it. But I'll show you how we made, are we ready? Or we don't have it? Oh, we got to move. I mean, is that okay? A minute? And I can just, this will save a whole lot of words. Turn it up. We're in 5/4. 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now we change. We left the 4, 5, yeah. Y'all feel that? Now he will turn and we'll go right back to 5/4 without saying a word. One, two, three, 1, 2. Stop. That's it. That's it. Stop. Now, I just wanted to show you that this is not about even if you hated the music. You understand? What you like is a matter of taste. Some people like oysters. Some people like squid. I'm not asking you to like or dig what we did. I'm trying to show you this was worked out. There was no accident. And if I didn't show you, okay, we're in 5, now we're in 4, we're back to 5. And Stanley, as a drummer, you know what we just did. You wouldn't have done it. This was worked out. That's the main thing I want you to understand. They like to dismiss it as chaos. How does a whole band go change rhythms and no signal given to nobody? That's called a well-oiled machine.